What's up, guys? This is Jimmy and Alex here for this week's fishing report. We're going to start off. There's been a lot of good stuff going on with the rockfish that Alex is going to tell you about real quick.
Yeah, so for you guys still going out there, remember it's catch and release only now until pretty much next year, whenever the season's going to open up. There can always be changes made during the off season, but going back to what's going on right now, everything is going to be pretty much really far south, and we're talking about, Chesapeake Beach. It's kind of fading off now. You got to go down to Point Lookout into Virginia waters and catch some of those big fish that are coming into the bay. The first wave of big fish that came down from Jersey, they've been catching them at Cape Charles now for probably about 2 weeks now. They start to make their way up, and they're finally just south of the Virginia line down towards, past Smith Point there, all the way down to the Rappahannock River, still searching open water for marks or just actually birds, same typical stuff. As you can see, upgrading to those bigger baits, 8-inch, 10-inch baits on 1 ounce to 1.5 ounce jigs. It's going to be the ticket. Obviously, you can catch some of the smaller fish with the smaller baits. You are going to be finding them pretty much in the channel edges or in the main channel, which is going to be, 40 to 60 foot of water. Now, remember, as you work your way up towards Chesapeake Beach, there's still some fish. They're not like all gone. They're just going to take a little more searching to find them. But once you do get on them, there's going to be some decent sized fish up here in Maryland waters, probably in the, mid-20s to your mid-30s and a few 40s mixed in there. Getting more closer to home, we're talking about, catching them around the pilings here. Not as consistent, but there will be fish all year long here in the Bay Bridge pilings. And then even right now, going all the way up to the rivers, in particular the Patapsco River, there's always fish in there. Now, they're going to be schooled up, uptight, smaller schools, in some of those deep pockets, far up into the Patapsco, closer to the port and the Key Bridge. So obviously you control around that. If you're far south, the more you get farther up here to closer to home, the more of your vertical jigging sitting on top of them, it's going to be more successful than down south with trolling and all the other things. Remember, there is a little bit of water difference with the temperature. Other than that, switching gears into some of these deep water white perch. I know we love pan fishing, and one thing people forget about is going to be deep water white perch fishing, which it's a thing that I don't see many people do, but it's really successful. So tell us a little bit about those baits there, Jimmy. We got some of those, what people will call like the little buddies, but that's a different bait.
Yeah, we got a couple different options here. This is going to be the Johnson Thin Fisher. This is you can kind of vertical jig it, they sink really nice because they're pretty half ounce, so it's going to be nice and heavy. You can also cast and retrieve those for pickerel and bass and other species. They're just a little bit heavy, so they will ride a little bit deeper. Other options you have is going to be something like these vertical jigs. Same thing, you're just going to let them sink to the bottom and then kind of lift up your rod and let them sink back down and kind of mimic a dying bait fish. Another option is just the classic Chesapeake sabiki. I can't go wrong with that. You can tip it with a little piece of worm or fish bites, or even fish a bare hook. I've had plenty of luck just fishing it with nothing on the hooks. And another option you can do is something like these bust and bait stingers, or some kind of small curly tail on some light jig heads in a tandem. All these options are going to be great for the deep water white perch, and also those yellow perch are going to start moving in shallow too, so you can do the same kind of tandems for the deep perch as you would the shallow yellow perch.
Yeah, and other than that, pretty much like we were talking about some of these baits here. First of all, find the schools of fish. You're going to find some of those white perches packed in tight where you might think it's actually structure when you once you see it on the sonar. You never know. There might be, perch. I use the fancy electronics to kind of take a look at that and, decide if they're perch or not. But once again, that's not just in places we mentioned. Every single little deep water area in the rivers where you're finding some oyster, hard bottom, those perch are going to be holding. So, if you want some fish for Christmas coming up here next week, that's the way to go. Get out there and catch some perch. I know the next few days is going to be actually nice weather out there with temperatures. chances of some rain, but if you don't mind it and the wind's not too bad, that's the way to go. So pickerel fishing in the creeks here, that's another option you can do while you're out there doing, your perch fishing. We've been talking about this nonstop for the past, couple weeks. And the reason why is because it's probably one of our top, fisheries in the shallow water, tidal, and some of the fresh water. So I know you love that color, Jimmy. So tell us how you're rigging those up right here.
Yeah, so we got just a 4-inch paddle tail from Z-Man. And we got, these are called the chin locks heads. It's also, they make them specifically for these diesel minnows because they got the softer plastic. You can just kind of slide it up and it rigs it really nice and weedless. That way you can fish it around grass. Or if you're not fishing around grass, if you're just fishing around docks or something, you can just use a light GI or any type of jig head with an exposed hook. But two good options there for fishing grass or no grass. But yeah, most of the baits are going to be 3- and 4-inch paddle tails. I kind of like this. I've just been having a lot of luck with this color. It's a little crazy, but you can kind of go natural colors or some colors that are out there. It kind of depends on the day. But yeah, it's been really good right now.
And to proof on that color, like I know you fished with it in the Severn.
Yeah.
I've recently just fished the Magothy with that, and it's very productive color. And the other thing people are finding, even myself when I was out there in the Magothys, a good amount of bass.
Yeah.
They're not huge. You're not catching 2-3 pounders, but they're the smaller class bass, and we've seen good numbers up there. So remember, take care of those little fish up there because they're kind of unique to this little area here where you can go out there and catch all kinds of things. Yellow perch, like you said, are starting to kind of move up there, become more active throughout the days here when we get the colder temperatures, and that will continue to get better here in the next few weeks, depending on the weather, if it cools down or not. But those fish do like that colder weather. So I know the guys at Beechwood fishing from the shoreline are catching a lot of white perch, especially with those micro jigs on their bobber. Been really productive. So one other way to go there, and I know it's contradicting then what we were talking about, some of these deep water. Who knows why, but that spot there, those fish like to stay there all year long.
There's always fish there.
So I don't know why or what's causing that, but they will sit there. And there's some guys where they will come in and be like they're not catching anything, and some days they're there. It's on and off. So it's one of those things. Yes, it's really tide dependent. So keep an eye on that because you'll get on them one day and the next day it's dead. Yeah. So you never know unless you're out there. Yeah. Other than that, we got pretty much our coastal fishery going on right now, and people are still searching for those migratory rockfish. As we mentioned, we had a wave of them come through. The guys up in Delaware are still getting into some of them, especially going out of Lewis and Indian River, heading up north towards Cape May. Not Cape May in general, but that general stretch on the north side. And some of those guys are also still catching some of them south towards Chincoteague. So they're kind of spread out everything throughout that area. Trolling's been good for the guys on the boats, and you guys surf fishing, just chunking some, cut bait out there. Tog fishing starting to kind of taper off as the waters get a little bit colder, but that's still an option fishing around the inlets. And I think that's what we got for this week. Make sure you guys get out there, send us some pictures, and happy holidays.